Have you ever replayed a moment in your mind and thought, that was it? And I let it slip away? Maybe an opportunity crossed your path, but you weren't ready to grab it. Maybe the right connection entered your life when you were still figuring yourself out. Or maybe you were so obsessed with waiting for the perfect timing that you failed to see the real timing standing right in front of you. Here's the hard truth: most people only realize when it's too late. Opportunity doesn't give warnings. It doesn't send reminders. It doesn't ask if you're comfortable or prepared. Opportunity arrives quietly, suddenly, and without mercy. And if you hesitate, even for a second, it moves on. Most people miss it, not because they lack talent, not because they aren't smart, but because they weren't ready when it mattered most. Yet once in a while, there are rare individuals who live differently. They prepare in silence. They sharpen themselves when no one is watching. And when opportunity knocks just one single time, they don't freeze, they open the door. That one decision sends their life in a completely new direction. This is the story of one of those people. Stay with me until the very end. In a massive city overflowing with ambition, pressure, and restless dreamers, there was an elite restaurant known as the Sterling Oak. It was the kind of place where million-dollar conversations happened between bites, where celebrities blended into shadowed booths, and where the price of a single dinner exceeded what some families earned in an entire week. And inside that world, quietly moving between tables, worked a 32-year-old waiter named Daniel. Daniel had spent 8 years serving meals, not because it was his passion, but because it paid the rent while he chased something bigger. Something invisible to the guests around him. His real dream was to become a business consultant. He had the education. He had invested in courses late at night after exhausting shifts. He had built strategies, polished presentations, and refined ideas that no one had ever heard and no one had ever seen. To the outside world, Daniel was just another waiter carrying plates. But beneath the uniform was someone preparing for a moment he didn't know was coming. A moment that would test whether preparation truly meets opportunity. Daniel had no powerful network behind him. No mentor opening doors. No sudden stroke of luck waiting to save him. Inside the restaurant, most waiters treated the job like a holding cell, a place you endure while dreaming of a real life somewhere else. They arrived late, rolled their eyes at customers, complained between orders, and gave just enough effort to avoid being fired. But Daniel never blended in. Every shift, he stepped into that dining room as if it were a battlefield. His uniform was flawless. His shoes gleamed. His name tag sat perfectly aligned, never crooked, never careless. He didn't just memorize the menu, he mastered it. He knew the origin of every ingredient, the logic behind every wine pairing, the story that inspired each dish. He listened. He observed. He absorbed everything. The others mocked him for it. "Why are you trying so hard?" They laughed. "It's just serving tables. Nobody important is paying attention." Daniel would simply smile and reply, "You never know who's watching, and you never know which day will change your life." What they didn't understand was that Daniel lived by a rule passed down from his grandfather, a man who had built a thriving business starting with absolutely nothing. His grandfather used to say, "The luckiest people on earth aren't lucky at all. They're prepared." Opportunity doesn't wait for you to catch up. It doesn't pause while you get ready. It only recognizes those who were ready before it arrived. So Daniel trained himself daily. On short breaks, while others scrolled their phones, he read business books. Late at night, he practiced speaking clearly and confidently in front of the mirror, correcting every hesitation. He refined his consulting ideas again and again, sharpening them like tools. He even kept his consulting portfolio saved on his phone, updated, organized, and ready. Despite the fact that weeks turned into months and no one ever asked to see it. Still, he kept preparing. Because Daniel understood something most people never do. The moment that changes everything usually arrives quietly, disguised as just another ordinary day. Some nights, after grinding through double shifts, his roommate would shake his head and ask, "Why are you still studying? Why do you keep preparing?" Nothing ever changes. Daniel would answer softly, almost to himself, "Not yet, but when it does, I'll be ready." Life continued to rush past him. The city never slowed down. Opportunities landed in other people's hands, people with powerful connections, people with luck, people who just happened to be standing in the right place at the right time. Daniel watched it all happen around him, and still he prepared. Then came a Friday night in November, the kind of night restaurants dread. Every table was occupied. The kitchen was behind schedule. When three servers had called in sick, orders stacked up, tempers flared, the staff was barely holding things together. Daniel was assigned nearly double his usual section, moving nonstop across the dining room. Despite the chaos, his movements stayed calm, his voice steady. No guest ever saw the pressure weighing on him. At exactly 8:47 p.m., the restaurant manager hurried toward him, eyes wide with stress. "Daniel," he whispered urgently, "I need you on table 12. A VIP just arrived. His regular waiter is out sick." He swallowed. "Robert Chen, CEO of Titan Consulting Group. Please don't mess this up." Daniel's pulse spiked. He knew that name. Titan Consulting Group was one of the most powerful firms in the country. And Robert Chen wasn't just a CEO, he was a legend. A man who built a billion-dollar empire from nothing. A man famous for recognizing talent where no one else bothered to look. This wasn't just another customer. This was opportunity, walking through the door without warning. For a split second, doubt crept in. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I'm not enough? What if this is the moment and I fail? Then another thought cut through the fear. I've been preparing for this my entire life. I just didn't know it would arrive like this. Daniel straightened his tie, took a slow breath, and stepped toward table 12. Robert Chen sat alone, scrolling through documents on his tablet, his face worn with exhaustion. He looked like a man who had survived endless meetings, tasteless dinners, and far too many empty sales pitches. Daniel approached, not with nerves, but with quiet confidence. "Good evening, Mr. Chen. Welcome to the Sterling Oak. My name is Daniel, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Robert glanced up briefly and nodded, polite, distant, uninterested. Daniel didn't force conversation. He didn't try to impress. He did what he had always done. He served with excellence. When Robert asked about the salmon, Daniel didn't repeat a memorized description. He spoke with clarity, with insight. He explained where it was sourced, why the chef prepared it a certain way, and which wine complemented it best, without sounding like a salesman. For the first time that evening, Robert Chen paused and looked up. Daniel spoke calmly, without rushing. He explained where the fish was sourced, how the chef prepared it to preserve its texture, and recommended a wine with subtle citrus and mineral notes to elevate the flavor. Then he added, almost as an afterthought, that if Mr. Lot, Chen preferred something lighter, the sea bass that evening was exceptional. Robert Chen stopped scrolling. He looked up. Not just a glance this time, but a real look. "You know your menu well," he said. Daniel nodded slightly. "I believe in understanding my work, sir, whatever that work may be." As the evening continued, Robert began asking questions. Some were about food. Others felt different, carefully worded, layered, almost like quiet evaluations. Daniel answered each one with clarity, confidence, and respect. Never arrogant, never unsure. When dessert plates were finally cleared, Robert set his coffee cup down and said something Daniel hadn't expected. "Tell me, Daniel, what do you do when you're not serving wine?" Time slowed. This was the moment Daniel had been preparing for, without ever knowing when or how it would arrive. He didn't stumble. He didn't laugh nervously. He didn't apologize for his position. And he didn't shrink himself. "I study business consulting, Mr. Chen," Daniel said evenly. "I hold a degree in business management. I've completed advanced coursework in organizational strategy, and I maintain a working portfolio of case study analyses." He paused, then added honestly, "I work here while I build experience and connections. But every spare moment I have, I prepare for the day opportunity finally shows up." Robert Chen studied him in silence. Most people wait for opportunity before they start preparing, and by then, it's already too late. "You're doing it the other way around," Robert said at last. "You're preparing while you wait. That's uncommon." He leaned back, coffee in hand. "Let me tell you something I learned 30 years ago, when I was exactly where you are." Robert reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small notebook. Its cover was worn, the corners bent, the pages yellowed with time. "See this?" he said, tapping it lightly. "This is my idea book. I've carried it with me for 3 decades. He opened it slowly. Most of what's written here came from moments of waiting, waiting for meetings, waiting in airports, waiting for life to finally begin. Robert flipped to a page marked by a faded fold. I wrote this entry when I was 28, he said. I was a junior analyst, underpaid, overworked, feeling invisible. He ran a finger across the page. I wrote, opportunity doesn't arrive when you're ready. It arrives when it wants to. He looked back at Daniel, and the only people it ever chooses are the ones who prepared before it asked. Opportunity is like rain, Robert said calmly. You can't summon it. You can't decide when it falls, but you can decide whether you're standing there with a bucket or hiding under an umbrella. He looked at Daniel. Most people walk through life holding umbrellas. They shield themselves from surprises. They crave comfort, routine, predictability. He shook his head slightly. So when opportunity pours down, they block it out, then complain that life never gives them a chance. But the people who win, he continued, they step into the storm with open arms and empty buckets. They're ready to catch every drop, even when it arrives at the worst time, even when it doesn't look the way they imagined. Robert paused, letting the silence do the work. Look at you. It's 9 o'clock on a Friday night. You're exhausted after a double shift, and instead of rushing me out so you can go home, you're treating this conversation like it matters. He leaned forward. That's because you understand something most people never do. Every single moment is an interview for the next opportunity. Something clicked inside Daniel. All those late nights studying when his body begged him to stop. All the extra effort when no one was paying attention. All the preparation during seasons when nothing seemed to move. It wasn't wasted. It was the bucket. And right now, it was raining. Robert closed his notebook and looked Daniel straight in the eyes. My firm is opening a new division, he said. We're looking for someone who understands service at the highest level. Someone who can analyze systems, handle high-stakes clients, and stay sharp under pressure. He slid a business card across the table. Come to my office Monday morning at 9. Bring your portfolio. Let's see if your preparation lives up to your mindset. Daniel took the card with steady hands, even though everything inside him was shaking. Thank you, Mr. Chen, he said. I'll be there. Robert stood, then turned back one last time. Daniel, there were 5 other waiters in this restaurant tonight. Any one of them could have served me. He held Daniel's gaze, but only one was ready when the moment arrived. And then he walked out. That night, Daniel wandered home in a daze. At 2 a.m, his roommate found him sitting at the kitchen table, portfolio spread wide, rehearsing out loud, refining every detail. Did something happen? His roommate asked. Daniel looked up, eyes alive. Opportunity knocked, he said. And this time, I was ready. That weekend, Daniel didn't celebrate. He prepared. He reviewed every case study, analyzed Titan Consulting Group's recent projects, refined his strategy, his answers, his delivery. He pressed his best suit, polished his shoes. He prepared like his life depended on it, because it did. At 8:45 a.m. that Monday, Daniel stood outside the glass tower of Titan Consulting Group. 15 minutes early, back straight, portfolio in hand. He wasn't just on time. He was prepared. He was ready. Inside, the interview stretched far beyond what he expected. 2 full hours. Robert Chen didn't go easy on him. The questions were sharp, uncomfortable, designed to expose weakness. But Daniel didn't panic. He answered with insight built over years, knowledge gathered late at night, during breaks after exhausting shifts. Knowledge people once assumed was wasted on a waiter. It wasn't wasted. It was invested. When the interview finally ended, Robert closed his notebook, looked up, and said 5 simple words that changed everything. When can you start? 3 weeks later, Daniel wore a different uniform. A tailored suit, a company badge, a new title, consultant. 6 months after that, he led his first major project. 1 year later, he was promoted to senior consultant. 2 years later, he stood on conference stages, speaking to packed rooms about operational excellence and leadership. One evening at a company event, a colleague asked him, half joking, half serious, "How did you get so lucky? How did Robert Chen discover you?" Daniel smiled, his mind drifting back to that crowded restaurant on a November night. "I wasn't lucky," he said quietly. "I was ready. And when opportunity knocked, just once, I opened the door." My friend, Daniel's story isn't about chance. It's about a mindset, a philosophy powerful enough to change a life and maybe yours. Right now, at this very moment, you might be waiting for your big break, waiting for someone to notice you, waiting for life to finally begin. But here's the lesson Daniel learned, and the truth I want you to understand. Opportunity does not arrive when it's convenient. It doesn't announce itself, and it rarely comes twice. So the real question isn't when your moment will come. The question is this: when it does, will you be ready? Opportunity doesn't show up when you feel ready. It shows up when it decides to. The only thing that truly matters is this: will you be ready when it arrives? Remember these three principles. First, every single moment is training for the next opportunity. How you handle small responsibilities today is rehearsing how you'll handle big ones tomorrow. That job you think doesn't matter? It's sharpening skills you'll need later. That effort no one notices? Someone will notice, eventually. Excellence practiced in silence creates readiness for visibility. Second, opportunity almost never looks the way you imagine it will. You expect a dramatic phone call, a clear invitation, a moment that screams, "This is it." But Daniel's opportunity looked like an exhausted businessman on a Friday night. It looked ordinary, unimpressive, easy to ignore. Most people miss their breakthrough because they're waiting for something that looks more important. Third, and this is critical, the difference between lucky people and everyone else is preparation. Lucky people aren't chosen by fate. They stay sharp while others get comfortable. They study while others scroll. They practice while others complain. They prepare while others ask, "What's the point?" So here's the question you have to answer. When opportunity finally pours into your life, and it usually arrives when you least expect it, will you be standing there with an umbrella, blocking it out? Or will you be standing there with an empty bucket, ready to catch every drop? Starting today, do three things. First, choose one skill that would matter in your dream opportunity. Spend just 30 minutes today improving it, even if no one sees, even if it feels pointless. Second, prepare your portfolio, whatever that means in your world. Update your resume, refine your pitch, organize your work. So when someone says, "Show me what you can do," you don't have to reply, "Give me time to prepare." Third, treat every moment like it could be the moment. That random conversation, that ordinary Tuesday, that person you almost ignored. Any one of them might be opportunity wearing a disguise. Because here's the truth Daniel learned that night, standing in a restaurant with a business card in his hand. The world rewards people who are ready before they are required to be. You can't control when opportunity arrives. You can't force it to show up. But you can control whether you're prepared when it does. And that changes everything. If this story reminded you to stop waiting and start preparing, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me the one skill you're committing to work on today. Even though your opportunity hasn't arrived yet, let's become people who are always ready. Until next time, remember, opportunity will never wait for you to catch up. So be ready before it comes. Your bucket is already in your hands. Now, stand in the rain.